I love to paint and draw outside. For a long time, I felt a lot of frustration that I could not produce the kind of drawing I wanted to outside, usually in very limited amounts of time. But lately, I have come to see working outside as one step of a process toward a finished work, just as I would see a 10-minute sketch made inside as a step toward something else, even if that something else is just a more developed sense of my subject, a greater understanding of what I'm trying to do, an exploration of something I haven't tried yet. I think I've tended to see time as my main limitation, and it is a big limitation. But where you have to work is also can be a big limitation. And since I've set up a designated workspace for myself that is art focused as opposed to writing focused, once I realized, okay, I don't really need a specialized place to write. I can write in a lot of different places without a big issue. I do need a specialized place for making visual art because there are so many things that come with that. It's not just on a laptop. It needs to be a space where I can come back to without too much setup. And this is something I wanted to talk to you all about because I think that we can feel really bad when we don't produce things that match our expectations, but also things that don't match what other people seem able to do. And once I've been able to make things over a period of weeks and see what I'm able to do with that really expanded time frame and with this space setup, it really helped me to see that what I produce outside is going to be very different. And that producing outside has to be about being in the moment, looking, enjoying the tactile qualities of both the air on my face and the paint on the page. And though the paint on the page may not end up looking anything like what I'm looking at, that's not why I'm out there. Getting out there helps me then be able to bring all that I've observed and all that I've felt to a more finished piece that I probably am going to complete indoors. This may not always be the case. If I someday have a setup, both time and space setup, where I can go with fewer limitations to sit on site for 3 hours and paint, I'll produce something really different. But I just think it's really important that you take into consideration the constraints that you have when you create something and change your expectations accordingly. And that doesn't have to define your whole practice. You may find that on different days in different parts of your life, you have different constraints. During my baby's first full year, my constraints they felt extreme. Drawing with them in my lap when they were tiny and snatching 5 minutes here and there whenever I could. Nothing was finished, not even very simple sketches. But those sketches, unfinished as they are records of looking and records of that time and records of the constraints themselves. And that is of value to me. And it's a value to me that I stuck with my process and let it be what it was rather than getting discouraged by those constraints to the extent that I gave up. Because I probably wouldn't be making bigger oil paintings now if I had given up during the first 12 months. What would have allowed me to then pick it up when my baby was 18 months because now this feels doable because the constraints have gone down a little bit. But I think if you're coming at this from other perspectives, it could still look very constrained. So just, I guess the whole message of this is to be individual with yourself, compare yourself to you, know your expectations and why you have them, and know that your expectations can and should change. So these last 2 weeks have been kind of a hodgepodge of activities. I've been starting to remake the sticker book for art lovers sticker book. Yeah, art lovers sticker book into an art journal, which I'm excited about. I've used these journals, this little 5-year diaries for since 2018, and they are wonderful, especially when you're really pressed for time, because they don't ask very much from you. You get about that much space to write each day, and that's worked really well for me while my kids have been really small. And now that my kids are both through the really tough infant phases, it's feeling more like I need more space to write, to explore things. I keep a running list of topics that I'd like to kind of work through in a really loose way, both visually and in words. So I'm trying to make myself that space out of that hardcover sticker book. I also refilled my palette this week, which is always fun. I thought it might be of interest to some of you to hear which of the gouache in my palette split and crumbled, because I know that's a fear for a lot of us in putting gouache in our palette and letting it dry, is that it will fall apart and then get mixed with a lot of the other paints. So I'm able to put a lot of different gouache in my palette without it doing that. It seems like the rule is that the earth tones will split the most. The raw umber gouache that I have split a lot. It crumbled, and it did start to get in the other pods, whatever they're called. And so I had to kind of pick it out of each of the colors that it got into and refill those. And I'm just going to keep the raw umber gouache on my desk, which is what I've done with other ones that have not worked out well, or I'm just not enjoying having in my palette. I leave it in this little chipped bowl, which also works sometimes as a brush rest, and I pull from it when I'm doing exploratory things, random things that I don't need to know exactly what color is going to come out. And so yeah, it's been fun to do these like random things and not feel too pressed to stick to a specific project this week. But yeah, those are the things that I've been working on